Good morning. Hello, our little coffee time crew. How are you today? Good morning. Daryl just popped in. Yes, I am back. I know, it's crazy because last Monday I was actually on a plane right now, so I was flying. So I promise you, good morning, Iris. Good morning. I promise you that um, if I can if I can work my schedule, my clients, my appointments, my calls, everything around coffee time I do, it is literally the one constant in my life. Even when Eric and I were full throttle in the chaos of real estate and of life, it was still everything stemmed around Monday mornings at 9 a.m. That was just kind of, it's what we had to do. It's what we do every Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And so if I'm not here, know that it was absolutely something that was out of my control. I did look for other flights, but it kind of had a domino effect. You know how that goes when you're traveling, and then when you have appointments. And that was Molly. You just saw the tail flop down. That was the cat. Hey, Mouse. Um, so yeah, it would have been a domino effect if I had taken the later flight. So my apologies, but I hope that you took my advice 2 weeks ago and that you did one of a few different things last Monday morning. Hopefully you either allowed yourself some you time, that you snuggled up with a book and stayed in bed with a blanket. I know some of you it's not quite morning time, those of you in some of the other countries, but that you either took a little you time. Maybe you got to sleep in, maybe you just had coffee in bed, or perhaps you did what I was hoping everybody would do, is just go do a small random act of kindness. Just have some positive thoughts on a Monday morning. I have found that it is kind of imperative to take a mental 5 minutes and just kind of try to fill yourself with something positive, something happy. And one of the things that always makes me happy, I'm gonna give Daryl a plug, is his TikToks, his posts, his reels will pop up. Um, Primarily, about leadership and being a good leader and things like that. But it's really just about being a good person. And so I like to pop and watch Daryl's little moments of inspiration. And so those always tend to resonate with me in one way or another. So anyway, so all of you that just popped in, oh my goodness. Jane, Laura, good gracious, Julia, Melody, all of you that popped in, Grateful Drifter, good morning, everybody. I hope you guys did have a good week. Tell me what you did. If you did something fun last Monday morning at 9 a.m. in lieu of coffee time, what was it? Did you go do a random act of kindness? Did you snuggle up in bed? For me, I was on a plane. Good flights, nothing too terrible, nothing too crazy, but I don't like to travel. I definitely don't like to travel alone. There are some things, some rituals, some just things that have developed over a 32-year marriage, that when I'm on a plane by myself, I'm like, oh, it's kind of, I don't have that person's hand to hold, like, literally. Anyway, so I was flying back. I'm back. I'm safe and sound. I'm a little hot today. I don't mind telling you, it's a little hot. So midway, the jacket may come off, guys. I don't know. It's just a little hot. In fact, I have a fan over here. It's not doing much to help, but speaking of weather, it is, at least for me. So I have a rule, when you are used to warm weather all the time and then the holiday season starts to creep in, right? And that's kind of where we are. Yes. I know it's August. In fact, I had a friend of mine who lives in Texas, and she posted on Facebook that she's got her home already decorated for fall. And then another one of my friends was like, it's still summer. But you take the reprieve when you can get it. And I will say, weather-wise, this week it's going to be I think I looked, it's like 88, 89, 90 this week. So all things considered, it's a little bit milder in Disney's backyard than in the throes of the summer. So we'll take it while we can get it. But on that note, I thoroughly believe, for me, this works for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for you. Works for me. I love the holiday season. I absolutely love the scents and the smells and the colors. there's a hair somewhere around me. So if you see this, I'm not freaking out. It's just there's a hair somewhere. Um, I love the colors, the scents, all of that of fall. And so in my brain, I like to decorate fall September, October. So September, October. Yeah, I know. Don't give me grief. Okay. It's one of the few joys I have left. Okay. But I like to decorate fall September, October. That's just fall in general. You know, closer in October, do I throw out a few Halloween? Candidly, no. When my kids were little, yes, we would put a few little Halloween things out there. But now I tend to just, by the time October 31st rolls around, you know, the next day, right? November. And so then if September, October are fall, then November, December means that's Christmas. So that's kind of the way my brain thinks. So on that note, I just have to tell you a few things. So oh yeah, I get, you can see it. So over here, I have my Yankee candle. I went to the Yankee candle store. Yankee candle, one of my absolute favorites is autumn wreath. You know, true story. When Eric and I, when we were married and living in our first like house together with our kids, where the kids grew up in Yorktown, our neighbors across the street were close with them. They had two girls, and we used to hang out with them as neighbors would. You'd pop over and you'd hang out. And then we had some other friends. We were all just kind of this, you know, big group of friends. All of our kids were younger. They all kind of played sports together, or they danced together, or whatever the case was. Anyway, I remember distinctly going to my friend's house. They were having some sort of a get together. Two things I remember from that visit, and this is what floods my brain in the fall. Number one, she made, and some of you guys are going to have to help me out. There is, you know how you have like Pampered Chef, and you have, you know, Longaberger used to be a thing, and Creative Memories, like all of the things that, like, you know, moms and dads would do. There was a brand that had like a beer bread. It was like a dry packaged beer bread. And you just took one can of beer. We're not drinkers, but I'd go buy a can of beer for the recipe. And I remember my son liked this. Anyway, so I would go over to their house. They had this beer bread. Taste. I don't know. It's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to sound like a cuckoo crazy lady during coffee time today. That's okay. Taste. It's not Taste Unlimited. Taste. Anyway, it'll come to me. Anyway, and she had this candle, and I remember going, that is the best smelling candle. What is it? So long story made not much shorter. When I think of the fall, I think of the beer bread that our, you know, former friends back in Virginia made. And I remember this candle in her powder bath. And I remember going, oh my gosh, it's my favorite scent. So every year I head out and I get autumn wreath, and I also have a little room spray because, you know, I got to get that too. But here's the thing. If you have a Yankee candle near you, look what it is. You have the buy one, get one free large candles. So yeah, so I may be heading back out to go grab a few. In fact, it was funny because they didn't have something I wanted, and as a courtesy, she went ahead and let me get in on the buy one, get one deal, even though it hadn't officially started yet. So I got the coupons. Now I'm gonna go back and buy more candles. See, that's how it works, right? You're nice. People come back, they spend even more money. Anyway, so it's fall, guys. If you could smell the room right now, you will smell the candle that's back over there. Smells like autumn wreath. I love it. I just wish it would be a little bit crisper, you know, if the crisp air would kind of pop in, that'd be fabulous, but it will be coming soon. All right, so I see there's some other things. Let me see. Oh, wait, Dave Howell. Just have to share this. My beautiful wife, Amy, of 33 years, are going to be grandparents. Dave, that's awesome. Congratulations. Aw. So it sounds like you guys are kind of right in line with where Eric and I were. So it would have been 30. I don't even remember now at this point. Would have been 32, would have been 33 years in April, I think. 32, I don't know. Anyway, a long time. And obviously we've got the two grandbabies, but congratulations, Dave. That's amazing. I will tell you, it's amazing. It's, for me, and it's so funny because I tell my kids this all the time, I struggle with the fact that they're not mine. Like, I want to do it all over again. You know, I want to have the babies. I want to take care of them all day. I want to be the one that's woken up in the middle of the night and figure out what it is and just go sit in the recliner and snuggle with them again. I want to be a mom all over again. So it's a new Oh, it's a new world. So good for you. I'm so excited. So keep us updated with that. And again, congratulations. Pam says she remembers the bear bread. Okay, so Pam, do you remember? Is it Tastefully Yours? Why did that just pop into my brain? Tastefully Simple? Jay says Tastefully Simple. I don't know. But if anyone can find me this company and or this, and it was in a pouch, like it was in, I think it was in like a little box, and it had like, it was just the dry mix, right? And all you did was you added anyway, whatever. It was really good beer bread. So if you know what it is, let me know. Chrissy says, was it Tastefully Simple? I don't know. I'm gonna have to go look because I don't know. Let's all go find it for me. Send me the links. Let me know, and then we can have a beer bread party. Anyway, I'm so excited. But yes, this is all ringing a bell. John. John says Yankee Candle. Look away, Pam. Hey, Pam. Buy one, get one. And it's a limit of 2 free. So just go buy a bunch of candles. I also like Bath and Body Works candles, by the way. Like for sure, I like them as well. But the Yankee Candle just takes me back. Kind of, I'm a bit more nostalgic. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we go through the rest of our coffee time. But with that, I'm going to go ahead. I have ice water in here. Look at that. Wow, you can see all the condensation on that. Interesting. It's very cold. Anyway, I have ice water today because I've already had my coffee up super early. Dogs, dogs, and there's construction going on around. So they tend to wake up a little bit earlier. But I'm prepped and ready with all beverages that are most important to me at the moment. So let's go ahead and get going and see what's brewing for today. Okay, so our topics for today, and again, I know that if you've been with us a while, you might go, oh, wait, haven't we talked about that before? Sometimes, yes, but there's always something new and different to share. So one of them is offer, finance versus cash. And that's going to be on the perspective of both the buyer and the seller so that you'll kind of know what to expect depending on which role you are in. The second topic is you still own it. Interesting. And then the third one is selling while you are currently in litigation. And we'll talk about that too a little bit more in depth. So let's go to our first topic. So what is better, cash or financed? Okay, so first of all, if you are the buyer, as I tell anyone, I'm not a financial advisor. Goodness gracious, do not take financial advice from me when it comes to your investments and long-term investment plans, retirement plans, things like that. But if you are the buyer and you have the ability to purchase with cash or financed, that is a really good question for your financial advisor. Obviously, cash, fantastic from a seller's perspective. Love it, right? Because there's a lot of benefits with the cash deal. But definitely if you were the buyer, confirm with your financial advisor what would be better. Now, clearly interest rates right now are not so much our friend. So, back when interest rates were like 2.75, kind of like our first house here in Florida, that was insane. Oh my gosh, that was insane. Then it might be, oh, should we do a mortgage and then just, whatever the case is. But if you are a cash buyer, double check, make sure that the cash purchase is going to be what is most beneficial to you. So as a cash buyer, your closing costs are going to be drastically reduced, like incredibly reduced. So that's important to note that, when we talk about, closing costs sometimes being about 5% of your loan amount, not the case, obviously, if it's cash, because you don't have that. So then the closing costs are quite minimal, comparatively speaking. So as the buyer, check, make sure it's the right decision for you, cash wise and long term, investment wise, depending on where you are in life, what stage of life you are in, what are your next plans that you may need to do or save or invest for within. Make sure that you're checking on that with people that have your financial future at their foremost of the priorities. Closing costs, definitely more beneficial. The other things from a seller's perspective, and I say this because I just had a client, we submitted an offer and we were, believe it or not, in this cuckoo crazy market, had a competing offer. There was another offer on the table. Ours did not get accepted because my client was financed. By the way, not a problem to be financed. Most people are financed. But the cash offer, in my opinion, the reason the cash offer was accepted over ours, despite the fact that we came in very strong, we added the escalatory addendum, meaning, hey, if there is a competing offer, we'll beat it by this much. Everything in our offer was really good, solid client, solid buyer. But the home was priced a little high. And in my opinion, we had done the appraisal contingency because, I mean, my clients, you know, our old adage, right? What are we trying to accomplish? Obviously, we're trying to accomplish securing the home, but it's also my job to make sure that my clients aren't going cuckoo crazy and overpaying for the home. So while we came in at a strong offer price based on their list price, we still added the appraisal contingency because, you know, my comps didn't really support that. But if they had comps that did, or if it appraised, then we're good to go. We're all happy at this price point. But if you're a cash buyer, you don't have to have an appraisal, right? So I think that in that particular scenario, the cash was better for the seller because they're like, well, not only is it, you know, there's no financing, so there's no potential hiccup coming down the road. Maybe there's, you know, an issue with employment, or maybe just something could happen, right? You've got this whole time that your loan is being processed and it goes through underwriting, that something could happen. So with cash, you know, there's no financing contingency, and appraisal does not have to be done. So there's no bank potentially in the background saying, hey, you know what? I think that's a little bit too high based on the appraisal. So anyway, so for a cash buyer or for a cash seller, you know, they say cash is king, but a lot of cash buyers out there get a little too big for their britches, I might want to say. And they feel like, well, hey, I'm cash is king. I'm going to come in substantially under asking because I'm cash, because I don't have to have an appraisal, because there is no financing contingency, because it is something that can potentially close in 2 to 3 weeks if everyone is like boom, 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 right? So sometimes they want to then come in lower because they feel like, hey, I've got that cash, so I can just do this real quick, but I want to get a deal out of it. There are a lot of sellers out there who's like, well, I like that you're a cash buyer, but I'd also like to make an extra 25 grand on the home. So I'm okay with the financed buyer, because once it closes, as long as the pre-approval is good, the client is good, the buyer is good, the lender is good, as long as everything is going fine, you know, would you take the 25? And we talked about this that one week. We talked about this a little bit. I asked you guys, would you prefer the cash buyer at a lower purchase price or a financed buyer at a higher price? And so we're kind of back to that again. But anyway, so I just thought I would share that with you. In this particular case, I think my clients lost out on it simply because we added the appraisal contingency because the home was overpriced. And a cash buyer doesn't have to have the appraisal. So anyway, just some food for thought there. Anyway, you guys are so cute. So Angela, Iris, Jay, oh my gosh, all you people that have popped in and I haven't said good morning to you yet. Good morning. All right, so let's go to our second topic. Selling your vacant home, you still own it. This is important to note. So let's just say that maybe it's an investment property, okay? So let's say you have a home that you use as a rental. Maybe it's not short-term rental, or maybe it is, but let's just say you have a home that you use as an investment property. Or maybe it was your primary residence and you've now moved out and you've moved into another property and you're trying to sell the other one and it is technically vacant. You're not living in it anymore, you've moved out. That home, my friends, is still your responsibility. You still have to make sure that your grass is cut. You still have to make sure that you're checking on your home. You still have to make sure that you're doing your homeowner maintenance on a monthly basis. If it's changing AC filters or flushing that condensation line, if there's a storm coming, doing your due diligence, going to check on that home, potentially shutting off water. If you're like, I'm just not there, I don't want to risk a flood. Okay, fine, shut off the water. There are things that you need to do, and you need to understand that is still your responsibility. That is not the listing agent's responsibility, unless that is something that you have clearly communicated and has been a part of your listing agreement. But most listing agents are not going to take on the responsibility and the liability of maintaining somebody else's home while it is vacant. So if you move out of state, this can be a challenge. I totally get it. If you were used to doing your own landscaping and your own lawn maintenance, and now you've moved out of town and your home is on the market back here in Florida, and it's a month, 2 months. I mean, you've seen how fast the grass grows here, right? You need to make sure that it's part of your responsibility and part of your to-do list that you have contracted a landscaping company to come and do that weekly maintenance. If you're not super close with one of the neighbors in the community, become super close. Make sure that you have a conversation with them if you know them and trust them, that they can take a look, maybe give them a key, ask them if they would pop over, once every couple weeks and just do a quick look around, make sure that there's nothing has flooded, nothing is going crazy. Making sure that you're doing all of that due diligence. And I talk a lot about that is the landscaping, because if you haven't done your landscaping and you're trying to sell your home and the weeds are 5 feet tall, how is that home going to get sold? It looks abandoned, and you don't ever want your vacant home to appear abandoned. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining landscaping, that you're popping back over. I know Gary, for instance, Gary's on our wishes list today. Gary's actually was a very similar situation, right? But he was back over there checking on stuff. Like, he'd go back over and double check if there was anything that needed to be done to the home. You can't just go, okay, well, I moved, forget it, I'm not going to look at it anymore. It is still your responsibility. And I think a lot of people forget about that. I had the most I was involved in a listing that I had was a very sweet couple, lived in a community not too, like, just kind of around the corner from me. Not great health wise. The home that they had in Florida was used as the family vacation home. It was it wasn't overloaded with stuff in it, but it definitely had a full place of furniture, and it had toys for grandkids, and it had towels and linens and things like that, and furniture and dishes and stuff like that. And in that case, they lived out of state. Mobility and health issues really prevented them from coming back and kind of boxing up the house. And that was something that I did. I was like, well, let me do what I can do to help. So I did. So, and they paid me back for the boxes. I got a cleaning crew to come in and they reimbursed me for that. And I ordered the pods and things like that. So I was a little bit more involved, but typically your listing agent does not do that. So it's important for you to know, if you are listing a home, or if you are selling a home rather, and you do not live in the home, if you live around the corner and you can still keep an eye out, you need to do that. If you have moved far enough away that it's not really convenient for you to check on it on a weekly or monthly basis, then you need to make arrangements to have that done. But that's not the listing agent's responsibility. You just want to make sure that is taken care of. And it can be communicated with the listing agent if that's something you want to pay them for outside of a listing agreement. It can be done, but most listing agents are not going to take on the liability of maintaining a home. They're not going to take on the liability of mowing the grass or changing the AC filters or flushing the line or any of that kind of stuff, because it's too much of a liability and it's still your property. So don't leave it. Don't abandon your baby. Okay. Make sure you've got plans to keep it going. All right. Okay. So Jay has confirmed it is Tastefully Simple is a beer bread company. Thank you. All right. So now my next thing after coffee time is to find the link and order myself some. And Angela said, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Pam, thank you for saying this, Amy, because that is one of my biggest pet peeves in the neighborhood. Investors that buy homes to rent them and then don't take care of the outside. Absolutely. If you have an investment property, and let's just say it's not short-term, let's say it is a long-term investment, or even if it is short-term, it doesn't really matter. But if you have a property management company, if you are paying a company to manage it, whether it's short-term or long-term, then you need to also then make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. I know it's hard because you're trusting this company to do this, but then that's when you have that communication with whoever your tenant is. And you can say, hey, just checking, everything going okay? Is the landscaping being done like it's supposed to? Or again, enlist the eyes, ears, and hands and feet of a neighbor, and just say, hey, does everything look good on the outside? I actually had a client who who they were selling their home, and the one thing that was on their seller's property disclosures that they had to replace some flooring because when they were away, the refrigerator water line to the ice maker broke. And so the refrigerator freezer flooded, and they had to then replace all of that flooring. So that was on the seller's property disclosure because good, honest people, you need to disclose that. But what was noted was actually one of the neighbors noticed and called him and said, hey, you might want to either check on the house or have somebody check on the house because, it looks like there could be an issue. And there was. And so, so it is important. But yeah, so if you have a property management company, by the way, you're paying them, depending on what your agreement is with that property management company, you're paying them a percentage of what your income is from that property. So make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And it's not just about cleaning the property in between guests. If it is short-term rental, it's about, hey, do I have that property management company that's there to fix or call or take care of the AC? Or, hey, that paver on that the front walkway it's popped up and it is a big tripping hazard. I mean, these are things that need to be maintained. It is still your property. So, Gary, love Gary's comments. Good point on checking the home. The kid I hired to mow the lawn hadn't done it in a couple times, and I ended up doing it myself to make sure that it looked presentable. See, exactly right, Gary. Perfect example. You still have to do your due diligence. It is still a huge investment that you own. You are still responsible for. So even though we may entrust that to other people, you still want to have that backup system in place to kind of confirm, especially if you're not in a position to swing by. Some of you are, you can go swing by and pop in and make sure everything's going okay. But anyway, so good. All right. Pam says, you messaged me the link for Tastefully Simple. Okay, Pam, I can't wait for this to be over. I'm going to order me a bunch. Anyway, okay. I'm so excited. Okay. All right. Let's move on to our third topic. I don't even remember what it is today. Selling while you're, while either the community, the homeowners association, the homeowners themselves, not a part of the HOA specifically, if they are currently in a lawsuit, and how does that affect you? Okay. This is constantly an ongoing thing, and it just absolutely breaks my heart. First disclaimer is that sometimes there are legitimate lawsuits. There are legitimate reasons for a community, especially if it happens to be a newer community. If there's an issue back when there was the Chinese drywall, okay, legitimate reasons for things to need to be remedied by the builder. 100%, no one's going to argue. But there are a lot of situations where people are just out to get a buck, make a buck, to get you in a lawsuit. And I know I went over this actually with our own community. Some of the townhomes were, not all of them. Some of them decided they wanted to be in a lawsuit, and again, I'm not saying that things are not legitimate, because there are, and your situation may be completely warranted. You could have had the worst drywall crew in Florida. Maybe you had the worst framing crew in Florida. Maybe you had the window installation. The guy was new and had no idea what he was doing, and your house is just a hot mess. Fine. That's legitimate. Do what you need to do so that you can be reimbursed and you can have some closure and some compensation for what's been going on with your house. But far too often, this is what I see. I see communities having an issue. Maybe a lot of the homeowners have the issues. By the way, just want to note, almost all of those issues seem to reveal themselves after a tropical storm or hurricane. Okay. Remember, our homes are built, you've got concrete block on the first floor, wood frame on the second, unless you are Waterley, D.R. Horton, where they do concrete block 2 stories, unless you happen to be maybe Ashton Woods over in North Lake, where it's 2-story frame. But in most cases, you've got concrete block on the first floor, wood frame on the second. Homes are built a certain way. Doors, windows, most of the windows here in the newer construction are built for wind up to 120 miles an hour. Some of them 140. Nothing is hurricane proof, Okay, but they can be hurricane resistant, right? So if there's a projectile, forget it, it's still going to come break through the window. But if it's just wind gusts, usually your windows are going to be fine. But it never says anything about, yes, your home is built so that when the rain comes in sideways or when it flips up because of the wind and it comes in up the weep holes the other way, and you've got other stuff trying to go out the weep holes and nothing can escape, where's it going to go? It's going to find other crevices. And that can happen sometimes. So a lot of times you'll see these communities or homeowners associations or just individual homeowners being, I guess, coerced, but I don't know, that might be too strong a word. So I don't want to, but let's just say coerced. Let's just use that word, into joining in. Oh yes, that's right. This builder was crap. They did a bad job. All these houses have problems. And then they want to chime in on this. Or maybe it's, we want to sue the landscaping crew because they're never out here, and whatever the case is. That's a little bit different because it's landscaping. They should be able to mow the grass. But what that means for you if you are trying to sell your property, the first thing I tell you is, do you really need to be a part of whatever this is? And I've said this before, but I have to say it again because this is happening again. If you suspect, if your community, your neighbors, your HOA, if they suspect that there is an issue, if there is whisperings of a lawsuit, if there are whisperings of having issues with a builder or with a company or whatever the case is that has to do with your home or your community, get your own inspection done if it affects your specific property. If it doesn't affect your specific property, think twice about it. If it affects your property, maybe you're like, oh gosh, you know what? I do have stucco cracks on the exterior of my house. I have only lived here 1 year. Oh my gosh. Wait, we did just have a category 3 hurricane hit. And you know what? I did have water come in my windowsill and it started to drip down. I did. So that must mean my house is built like crap. Maybe, probably not though. Get your own inspection done. Pay that $500 or $600, maybe less, to get an inspection done so that you can confirm for yourself whether or not that neutral third-party inspector who has no vested interest in your property says, you know what? I'm looking at the framing of your window and this is off. It's missing this level of sub wall, whatever. Okay. Let them help guide you to determine whether or not there's actually a lawsuit there. If there is, do what you have to do. If you plan on selling your house, just please note that you do have to disclose this. In the seller's property disclosure, there is actually a section in there about whether or not your home is currently in a lawsuit, if it's currently, in litigation, if there's any, anything going on legally with your property that a buyer needs to be aware of. So just make sure that you're aware of this. You have to disclose it, and what are going to be the ramifications of you being in a lawsuit. If there's 3 townhomes and these 2 are in a lawsuit and this one that's right beside it is not, which one do you think is probably going to be a little bit more appealing? Now, that's not to say don't enter into a lawsuit if there's a legitimate reason. This is just saying don't go on the bandwagon. Do your own due diligence as the owner of the property and make sure that what you're doing thoughtfully. And I promise you, if you plan on leaving and selling that house within the next year or 2 or 3, half of the times those lawsuits with builders are never taken care of. And then guess what happens? You have to pay the attorney a lot of money to get out of the lawsuit. So they're making money. They'll just keep you tied up in it. And then they get a big windfall from the builder, or potentially you'll have to pay them to get out of it. Again, not a lawyer. I'm not advising you. I'm just telling you that from the real estate perspective, if you are in one, make sure you do your due diligence as the homeowner. Secondly, if you are in one, it does need to be disclosed in the seller's property disclosure. And there is a secondary document that we would need you to complete as well, just to kind of explain what the situation is and why your community or your HOA or the homeowners themselves have established this lawsuit. So on that note, I'm going to go here because it matters. It's all going to tie in. So here's our word.
Oh, now come on, Amy, tell me what's the word.
Okay, caveat emptor. Okay, so this means it's the Latin words or the Latin phrase for buyer beware. This is very, very, very popular in real estate. everywhere, not just in Florida. And what that means is if there is something that is required to be disclosed, it must be disclosed. But there are things that are not required to be disclosed, and that is where the buyer beware. Buyer, you have to do your due diligence on the property. For instance, and here's an example from several years ago. Hey, wait a minute, we just got Arrington Capehart. Whoa, I made it for the first time, actual live on Coffee Time. Well, good morning to you. Yes, you did. You not only made it, but we popped your comment right up there. Thank you for joining us. So this, excuse me, this example goes back a couple years ago to a really sweet young couple who purchased some vacant land. It was out in a little bit further than Groveland, I think. I can't remember now exactly where it was, but it was a ways out there. It was more rural, definitely rural, and it was in an area where you could buy the home site and build later. Not like new construction communities now, where if there's a community, if Meritage is selling the community, you pick the home site. You can't buy the home site now and then build on it 5 years from now. It's got to be boom, boom, boom. But this place where my clients built was exactly that. It was the homeowner or the landowner owned the land. They were going to sell it. You could do what you wanted with it. You could just buy the land and never do anything with it if you wanted to. But it was in a residential community, but it was not an HOA type community. It was very, very rural, lots of acreage type thing. So my clients, when we did the vacant land contract, we had extra time in there to do our due diligence. And part of that is what we call a feasibility study. So when you're doing land, you have to understand that it's Florida. So you might buy 5 acres, but you might only have 1.25 acres that are actual buildable because the rest of it may be too low. It may be conservation. It may be, well, not conservation, but it could be like wetlands. And that has happened to my clients quite a bit in some vacant land purchases where they bought 10 acres, but only 2.5 of them were actually buildable. That's okay. You still have the other acreage. It's just you can't put your house on it. And so that's part of the caveat emptor, right? The buyer beware. Buyer, do your due diligence. Make sure that you if it's vacant land, that you're doing a feasibility study, that you're checking to make sure that the land is going to accommodate what it is that you're trying to do. Make sure it's zoned the right way. And for a regular traditional real estate transaction, excuse me, if it is a house, part of that is doing your home inspection, right? I've never ever had a client opt to not do an inspection, unless of course it was new construction. But for resale properties, I have had clients do the inspection for their own peace of mind, but they did not have the contingency with the inspection results. Very, very, very risky, but that was done in the time in the market where you were offering, your firstborn child and a portion of your liver and a blood transfusion to get them to accept your offer, because that was a totally different time than where we are now. So that's what they did. They're like, well, we're going to get the home inspection because we just want to know, but we won't be contingent on the results of that. So part of that, again, is the buyer's due diligence to make sure that you're checking, making sure that you double check HOA documents, making sure that you check any of the zoning, especially if you happen to be in some of these areas that are a bit more rural. So anyway, so all of that kind of tied in today. Again, these come from either experiences that have happened in the past, or I actually had one of our topics came from a colleague that called me the other day asking for some advice on a transaction that she was going through. And I was like, it's kind of a good topic. So we'll talk about that and share that with you. So anyway, hopefully that helped a little bit. All right. So Mark Malloy, you joined in. So good morning, Mark. All right, guys. So we are going to go. Let's see. What should I do next? You know what? I'm going to do secret. Okay, so, and I say it's a secret. I mean, it's not like a secret, like only I know it, but it isn't something that everybody knows unless you've been paying really good attention. So the Dreamfinder community of Avalon Woods has some 60-foot home sites. Now, to you may think, well, okay. To anyone who understands new construction in Horizon West here in Disney's backyard, understands that most home sites, even for these big, gorgeous, big, beautiful homes with lots of square footage, are still put on 50-foot wide home sites. So the fact that in Horizon West, Avalon Woods has some 60s is important. And I say that because I have some clients that are currently, they've got one of those 60s. It's not really reserved because they don't really reserve, but it's not released yet. So as soon as it's released, they will have that first right of refusal to move forward on it. But if you take a look, this is just a quick snapshot from their website. They have 40s, 50s, and 60s. So you can look at the 40 foots. Those are like the dark navy, deep blue. You can see the yellow or orangey ones are the 50-foot wide home sites. And then the lighter blue ones are not the light blue ones. Those are the models. But the other ones are the medium blue are all of the 60s. And you can see that those are kind of tucked around. Now, one other thing I would like to mention here. This is not a bust on anybody. This is just you. This is caveat emptor, buyer beware. Okay, here's the thing. Take a look at this example of a site map. This is literally from their website. I just copied it and put this over here because it's a great example. This is typically what you are going to see on a builder's website. And it's what you're going to see maybe even if you go into the community, into the sales office. By the way, their models aren't ready yet, so there's nothing there for you to go to see yet. But call me and I'll get you in touch with my people. But when you go in, you're going to see this type of a site map. Now, what do you see in the very middle? You see a pond. Isn't it pretty? Do you see the shrubs and trees and things around it? That's also pretty. Look in that upper left-hand corner. Do you also see a pond? It's blue too, right? Like a gray blue, kind of making you think water, right? With some pretty trees around it. And in the upper right-hand corner, you also see a longer, more rectangular section, also says pond. These say pond. And what our brains are thinking is a pond, a water-filled pond. We might even be so excited that we're thinking that they're doing what Waterley and some of the other communities do, where they have these big, beautiful fountains in those ponds. But friends, the majority of these ponds are dry retention ponds. And so it is absolutely important for you to know and to understand and to ask the question, whether it's in Florida or whether it's in Montana or whether it's in Mississippi or if it's in Washington State. If you are looking at a site map, if you cannot see it for yourself, make sure that you find out, okay, hey, this pond here, is this a water-filled pond? Is this a dry retention pond? Dry retention pond here in Florida is very common. You're going to have those in all the communities. When the rain comes down heavy and hard, it has to have somewhere to go. So almost every community has these dry retention ponds. And the hope and the plan is that they stay dry until such time as weather warrants it as a collection pool. And then that dry pond becomes a little bit of a wet pond, and it usually will drain 24 to 48 hours depending on the severity of the Mother Nature situation. But it is really, really, really important to note things like that, because when you look at that in your mind, you're buying from afar and you might go, oh my gosh, I want that lot that backs right up to the pond, because what you're envisioning is a water-filled, beautiful pond. You might even be thinking, oh, there might be some gators in there, or maybe we could go fishing in the pond, or wouldn't that just be a beautiful water view property? No, ma'am. It's most likely going to be a dry retention pond. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. It's still beautiful. It's still no rear neighbor. But will it be a water pond? No. And will it be beautiful, bright, green, lush grass? No. It's also probably going to be more brown grass because they're not irrigating that. It's a dry retention pond. So the grass is not going to be as green as your yard would be. So the point of all of this is not that it's a bad thing. I'm not trying to deter you from purchasing any of these. It's about making sure that you know and that you ask that question as to, well, what am I actually looking out to? What is the actual piece of earth that I'm considering buying? Because according to this little site map, it looks like I'm going to have a water view. And then you get there and you're like, oh, wait, you mean that's not going to have water in it? And it's just about transparency, and it's about making sure that your expectation is in line with what the seller or the builder is representing. And that is very, 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 very common. Very common. I don't know a builder that doesn't do a site map like that. So they don't put dry retention, they just put pond. So just make sure that you know what you're going to either look out to in the front or to the side or behind you, so that you're not disappointed, especially when you're in the height of the excitement. they got 60s. I'm so excited. I love the builder. Oh my gosh, do I love Dream Finders. Love their floor plans. Love the community. Love, 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 love everything about that. Um, so you get all excited about it. You start the conversation. You pay the $50,000 lot premium or 60,000 or 20,000 or 100,000, whatever the lot premium is, because you see where it is located within the community with the expectation of one thing that is not the reality. So want to make sure that you know that. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Allie. Allie says, good morning, folks, and welcome to the new faces. Yes, I agree there, Allie. And then Allie also is reminding us to not to forget to like the video if you're enjoying the stream. That would be great. We would definitely appreciate that. Okay. I have something. This is a fun coffee time for me. I don't know. Maybe you're not having fun, but I am. So hold on. Let me do what I'm watching. Okay, sorry, just had my Diet Coke. Cheers, cheers, wherever it is, cheers. Okay, so this is what I watched yesterday. I had a lot of work that I was doing on the computer. Actually, I think it may have been the past 2 days, because today's Monday, right? Yeah, because it's coffee time. So I guess it was over the weekend. Lots of stuff going on, lots of computer work to be done, a couple of appointments, but mostly I just kind of put something that was, I thought, would be mindless, right? That I could just put on in the background and listen to it and whatever, and then move on. But candidly, I'm a little tired of like the Gilmore Girls or Seinfeld or Everybody Loves Raymond. Not like tired, like I'll watch them forever and a day, but that's what I've been watching as my mindless because I've watched those episodes so many times I don't need to see them. Well, here was my mistake with American Pickers, my friends. Never watched it before. Obviously, this is an older show. I believe one of the hosts actually passed away, which I didn't realize until after I watched it, and then I got all emotional. But what a fun show. And it's really in line with where I am emotionally now. It's if you haven't seen American Pickers, it's I think it's what it was called. I put the graphic down. I think that's what it's called. Basically, they would go out to people's properties, to businesses, things where they've just maybe they buy things at yard sales or estate sales or whatever the case is, or maybe it was just left in the house that they purchased. Maybe they have barns and buses and just rooms filled with essentially junk, right? That we would just assume is junk. It's cobwebbed. It's not organized. It's just kind of shoved in there, and they will pick through it, and they will find these old items. Some of them are super valuable. Some of them are just kind of wonky and cool and different. Some of the things they would pick up, I would think to myself, that was in my grandparents' attic. I remember that. Like, I remember that kind of big, cool radio thing. But it was just so nostalgic. It was so historic. It was so, it just reminds you of the depth of life, right? The depth of the world and where we are. We're just here for this short little blip in the radar. And when you go to again, it's a TV show. You guys are like, Amy, you are like way emotionally involved in this. Yes, I know. Because candidly, everything for the past 11 years now, in Florida has been about new. It's been about new. Everything is new, right? My houses have been new. My kids' houses have been new. The furniture has been new. The decor has been new. The pool was new. Everything was new. And coming, seeing this, like when I went to my mom's house, I go in there and I see all this furniture and these little knickknacks and these things that have been there forever. Like I remember when she bought those little pillows and they're still there. And my daughter and my son's girlfriend, we went to a little like a flea market-y type place. And I would walk through that and I was like, all of this stuff is stuff that like I remember at my granny's house or at my nanny's bedroom or my grandmom and granddaddy's house. And obviously, and then some of these were from their relatives. So the point is, American Pickers was a very fun show. I was not able to get as much work done because I couldn't just keep it on mindless because I was watching it the whole time. I was like, what did they find? What did they pick? What did they brush off? how much did they get for it? Did they sell it? And it was just very, very cool. And it just kind of takes you back. As much as new construction is fantastic, and I love it, like there's so many benefits to it. But sometimes, and again, maybe it's where I am in my life, but just kind of the feeling of the history of items, of objects, of places, of architecture, of just the pride that they took in some of the furniture pieces. I have a gorgeous buffet that was my grandmother's, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. It was not in the last house that we had that we did coffee time from the majority of the time. It was actually in the garage house. Prior to that, it was in the house. But I didn't have a spot for it to do it justice in that house. And it just didn't fit, right? It didn't fit with the vibe of the house. It didn't fit with the style of the house. But I love that piece of furniture, and it was just so well made. So anyway, so American Pickers, if you like that kind of stuff, I know there's a lot of shows like that. Like there's the ones where people go to was it Storage Wars or something, and they go and they get the storage sheds, and there's junk in there, and sometimes they find a treasure. But I mean, I wouldn't want to do that for a living, but I do think it's kind of cool to go, you know what, that little scooter, there was a kid on that scooter, and that might have been the only thing that kid got for Christmas that year. And it was made out of wood. It wasn't metal. Like, just things like that. It just kind of gets back to the whole nostalgic thing. And with that, I'll stop because now I'm starting to get sad. Okay. Tracy says, I used to watch American Pickers years ago. So yeah, Tracy, I didn't realize that it was, I never knew it was a show. It just kind of popped up as something I might want to watch. And I thought it would be kind of mindless and something different, but I got very attached to it very quickly. And then Tracy also says, it's so true. This happens whenever I walk through an antique store and I see things from my childhood that my grandma used to have. It's kind of crazy. It's also just kind of another reminder that, that just life goes on and you can repurpose so much of this stuff. So, the whole Big Brother is watching type thing, how when you say something or you watch something, everything then starts to be fed to you. Dangerous, by the way. But I start getting all of these things about going to thrift stores and these old objects and how you can repurpose them. And so now I'm like, okay, I got to go find some thrift stores. So if you know some thrift stores, let me know. All right. Kim, I lived in a house from the 17th century for a while. It was very cool and very haunted. Oh, it was haunted for real. Okay, Kim. All right. Kim, I'm so into this. Okay, so you have to tell me later, not today. Maybe next week we'll do a segment. So you be prepared, Kim, to tell us all about the 17th century house, where it was. I'm so intrigued. Okay, mostly because it's a 17th century house, and that history alone, the coolest thing ever. Okay, I want to know all about that. So Kim, you are going to be a topic next week. Allie, make a note. Kim will be a topic next week. And Kim, if you can't make coffee time next week, then just tell me when you can. But I'll make you a brewing topic because I'm so excited about that. Okay. All right, guys. Let's move on to... Let's go to the... Did I do the scoop? What did I do? Did I do scoop? No, scoop. Okay. Guys, don't even laugh. Do not laugh. We've talked about this before, but it's worth noting again because in Horizon West, in Disney's backyard, you're going to see a lot of talk about, well, this is coming and that's coming and the permits were filed and it's still in permitting, or the permitting came out, or those people backed out, or nope, that's not happening anymore, or those people, skipped town, whatever. You hear a lot of those types of things. So when you get wind, oh, hey, there's a McDonald's coming by Waterley, and then you're like, okay. And then you're like, okay, the permits got filed. You're like, okay. And then you're like, okay, like it's happening. So guys, I cannot tell you the excitement for right there at the entrance of Waterley, right beside the Publix, there's going to be a McDonald's. So a new Diet Coke spot. I'm just saying, super excited about that. Now, I noticed that there are a lot of people that are like, well, we don't want another McDonald's. That's horrible. It's crappy food. Why would you have another McDonald's? I'm just excited about the Diet Coke. So, I'm excited that it's coming. But if you are in the area, just know that that's coming. It's been coming for a while. We've mentioned it way, way, way back when the rumors just started. But as things really start to take like ground, and you start to really see things starting to move and to progress. I'm just salivating at the Diet Coke already. All right, now I'm going to do cup. Okay, so part of my journey last week through the weekend was I got to spend some time with Elsie and Elizabeth, and so I was super 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 excited about that. We actually got a hotel room just so that we could have some special fun time ourselves. Elizabeth's husband he's in the National Guard, so he was away doing some National Guard responsibilities, and so we just had a little girls' weekend. And I had some clients, and some things were happening, some work related things were happening. But I took some time to say I'm gonna focus on the cute and beautiful faces in front of me. So super excited about that. Elsie is just she's just a little spitfire. I love her so much. So cute. And I don't know why I made that picture black and white. I don't know why I did. I was just playing around on my phone. I was like, oh, I like that. Maybe it's because you can't see the wrinkles as bad. I don't know. Anyway, but sweet baby girls, got some. Get some pictures of Easton in here next time. But yeah, I got to spend some good quality time with Elsie. We FaceTime all the time, but it was really nice to be able to smooch on her. And you know what, Elizabeth, I didn't put the picture in here. But when I got there, I mean, I picked her up and she just snuggled in on my shoulder, and it was just the best. Just the best. So anyway, trying to take those moments to remind myself that quality of life matters quite a bit, and to see what's there in front of you. So anyway, all right, let me see. Did I get everything? Let me see. Oh no, I didn't. I've got my listings. Okay, so this listing actually went active last week, but we couldn't, since we didn't have coffee time, I didn't feature it then. So this one is located. Okay, it was a bug that just flew by. It is a home in Lakeview Preserve. Lakeview Preserve is a gated community. I have another gorgeous listing also in Lakeview Preserve. It's that big, beautiful 3-car garage, 1-story Ashby floor plan. But this is a 2-story floor plan called the Yorkshire. This is not the same Yorkshire that I had. So if anyone's going, oh my God, Amy had a Yorkshire. No. Different builder, different floor plan, not the same thing. But it is still a gorgeous floor plan by Pulte. 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, a little over 3,700 square feet. So it's a nice size house. There's also an ensuite there on the first floor. So if that's something that you're looking for, if you've got a family member or you want to use that as a guest room, that's a great spot. There's the loft, the bonus room upstairs. Again, it's in a gated community there in Winter Garden. $20,000 closing cost contribution. There's also, guys, a VA assumable loan. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I've never had a client take over a VA assumable loan. I've had clients have them, and we've advertised them in listings before, but I know that it can be a really great thing. But just know, if that's something that just piqued your interest, this is not a situation where the seller is like, well, yeah, I'll have you tie up my VA certificate. No. They need you to have your own VA certificate and to assume that loan so that they can have their own VA certificate available and accessible to them for whatever it is that they do next. So just as a little disclaimer there. But if you have a VA certificate, you can assume that loan. So, and by the way, interest rate, pretty sweet on that one. So, big, gorgeous backyard. If you take a look at the bottom right-hand picture, you can see now the houses on either side have pools, but that is going to give you an idea of the space. So look at that. A huge amount of backyard space. 2 neighbors already have it fenced in. So what's that mean for you? Boom, you're just going to connect that fence right along the back. And you can also see by this aerial shot that you don't have a neighbor right there in your backyard. You've also got that additional space back there. So so a nice little spot there. So if you're interested in that one, obviously give me a call. Again, it's in Lakeview Preserve, built by Pulte. That community had Pulte and Taylor Morrison in there. Lots of great amenities. It is technically Winter Garden, 34787 zip code. However, it is Lake County Schools, Lake Lake County taxes. It's in a really great spot, letting you have perfect accessibility to both. You go out of the community, take a right, you're right there in Claremont, go out, take a left, then you're going to go down to Winter Garden. And if you're like, now that they got all these new roads connecting back there off of Schofield and Wellness Way, all of that's going to connect as well. So it's really, really kind of making that whole area really, really something special. So hopefully that's a good one for you. And then we also have the beautiful one story there in Winter Garden in Winding Bay. A nice one story there. The Mineola 2-story. Love that one. We've got the Winter Garden 1-story that I just mentioned. It's in the same community as the other listing. The Kindred one is getting ready to close. Super excited about that one. The Groveland one is getting ready to close too. Who's excited about that, Gary? And we also have a Davenport 2-story. We have a 55 plus 2 villas. We have a 55 plus villa in Four Seasons community by Kay Havnanian in Kissimmee. And then we also have the beautiful villa in Del Webb Oasis there in Horizon West and Winter Garden. That one has a closing cost contribution, as does the other one in Kissimmee. We just added that, so I'll add that little banner to it as well. We have the new construction bungalow, upper right-hand corner by Meritage, so it's legitimately new construction. And then, of course, we have that beautiful townhome down at the bottom. Now, on that one, actually, I'm going to make a correction on that one. That one, we lowered the price and removed the closing cost contribution. So I will update that one as well. But price-wise, we're still about the same thing. All right, so let's see. I think that might be, gosh, I just zoomed through everything, didn't I? I did. I think, Allie, did I miss anything? I'm looking at all of my little buttons. I don't think I did. I think I got it. And here we are at 10:03. So I guess that means, my friends, it's probably time for us to say goodbye to another morning coffee time. But as always, I always forget. Yes, Kim says I have the Yorkshire. Yes, you do. And let me just tell you, Kim, your view is something special. But yeah, so as always, I keep forgetting to ask you guys, if you've got questions, pop them in here. I'm so sorry. Again, this is some of the things that Eric would do that would kind of help remind me to take a peek over here, but it's kind of hard to talk to you here, manage this, and still do some of those other things. So don't forget, if you've got questions, to pop those in. Always happy to help. Don't forget, you can always give me a call at 407-848-8042. You can text me there as well. Texting is usually easier and faster, because if I'm on the phone, I can still text you back, or if I'm stepping into a meeting, I can still text you back. And then we can schedule a time to chat in person or over the phone. Either way is fine. We can do a Zoom call if we need to. And then other than that, my friends, next week, today's what? Today is the 25th. Do we have, wait a minute. Are we going to already be, no, we can't be. Oh, you know what? I did want to show you one thing. I don't know if I can show it to you now. Yes. This is what I love waking up to, by the way. I woke up, my first message this morning was, one of my clients' house foundation has been poured and we are starting to go vertical, my friend. So these are the little things I love waking up to. I'm like, it's a great communication, keeping everybody in the loop with what's going on with the property. But what I was going to look at, if today is the 25th, so that means next Monday is September 1st. Guys, I have to be decorated for fall by next Monday. I've got to get on it. I got to go figure out how I'm going to decorate this little space and make it look fall-ish. By the way, more info coming. Remember, this is just a temporary backdrop. We'll have the real one coming here pretty soon. I'll fill you in on all those details later. But until then, just remember, guys, I really appreciate you guys joining in with me on Monday morning. So please stay safe, stay well. Remember, I love you. And, of course, happy house hunting. We'll see you guys next Monday, which will be September 1st. Are you kidding me? See you guys later. Have a great week. Bye.